situated on the Haldimand Tract, land that was granted to the Haudenosaunee of the Six Nations of the Grand River and are within the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. As participants in today's event, we are coming together from many different places. We encourage you to learn about and acknowledge the land from which you participate. We will never stop fostering an anti-racist environment to create a place and space where everyone is free to be their whole selves. Our commitment to building a community rooted in inclusion and equity will never waver, and it will mean listening and learning as we go. Everyone on our team and within our community receives the same respect and opportunity regardless of age, ethnicity, gender, culture, identity, beliefs, or language.
Okay. Well, good morning again, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited about our topic today, and Alex is going to provide the introduction to our speaker.
Great. Thank you, Carly. Good morning, everybody. We're so happy that you joined us this morning, bright and early, on a cold winter morning. Yes, so it is my pleasure to introduce to you Kamal Soan. I had the pleasure of getting introduced to Kamal at our Wealth Project Management Collective projecting panel and at the University of Wealth. He was kind enough to come and speak to the group of students. And, it's also so great that we have, young people at the university coming together and forming a club about project management. So I was really impressed by this club, and we've been collaborating since they got started. And this was their second event that they had, where they had a group of panelists, and Kamal was one of them. I was really impressed, by the depth of knowledge that Kamal brought to the panel. And, I approached him, and he was so kind to come and speak to us today. Kamal has over 17 years of IT industry experience in insurance, retail, fintech. I was kind of looking at your LinkedIn profile there, Kamal, and I think, all your certifications don't fit in one line, so you need a couple of lines to fit everything that you've done and all your achievements. So really, really great that you're here, and we're really looking forward to your speech this morning. So Kamal, I welcome you, and thank you for coming today, and we can go ahead and get started.
Thank you very much, Alex, for that particular introduction, and Carly for getting us started here. I appreciate it, everyone who joined on this Cold Friday, as Alex said. We have about 22 people, so hope more join and we get started here. So let me share my screen here, and we are on our way. Okay, quickly. All right, I hope you can see my screen. All right, perfect. So let me get this down. All right. As we all know, the topic of discussion today is all about learning about, executive communication mastery. I know whenever we hear the word executive, we all kind of start to think, what is the best way to, put our foot forward, right? So what do we do to really impress that particular, leader? Or let's just say you are in a leadership role. What do you do to make sure your team actually listens to you or is aligned to you to make sure you are being that effective leader? So the presentation is more geared towards both ways, top down as well as, bottoms up, which means if you're in a middle layer, how to communicate to your executives on the top, and also how do you communicate as an executive to your team. So you can take this approach both ways and take it the way it helps you down the line. And this is in collaboration with the PMI Canada Technology Triangle. Alex, being the incoming president, very gracious to offer me this opportunity to present to you guys, and I appreciate everybody on this Friday joining this presentation. So I know Alex introduced me, so I'm going to skip this slide and move forward. But I do appreciate your acknowledgement, Alex, about the certifications. I'll definitely think about it. Some house rules, here to just get started. I would greatly appreciate if you turn on your camera and turn off your microphone so that we all can see each other and also, enjoy the space more interactively, then, feel free to type in the chat if in case you have any questions or any comments or anything. It's always good to have that interactive discussion and engagement going on so that we all enjoy the time we are in for the next 1 hour. And if you have any questions or anything you have regarding the presentation, feel free to drop in the chat. We'll have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. All right. Now, our checklist of learning checklist would be here to understand why executive communication matters and, some real world scenarios so that you understand why it's more important to, think about each of the segments that are being discussed here. Some common pitfalls as to why people fail in executive communication. Think about your recent communication which did not land properly. It could be one of these reasons why it did not land properly. So the idea is to, take those 5 strong pain points that we commonly see across the world and, put a spin towards what solution and frameworks we can look into to solve those so that you take those away and, use them in your next executive communication as you move forward. And I would strongly urge if you have a pen and paper or a Word doc in front of you to start taking some notes so that, you can use them immediately after this presentation. And finally, once we know about the solution and frameworks, it's all about what to do and what not to do so that you can keep them in mind and use them accordingly. And I also have a little bit of, not really a huge test, but some kind of a thinking for you to look into how ready you are for executive communication after we do the do's and don'ts. And then, we'll look into key takeaways and next steps. Without further ado, let's get into the presentation here. Now, whenever we think about executive communication, right, we all wonder like, how do we really look into? But there are 3 key things that executive communication really dives down into. First and foremost is, it helps you drive that decision making and business impact. In a recent study, it was found that, 74% of people complain that due to lack of understanding or let's say clear conscience of what's being communicated, there is a lot of confusion in organizations. Now, what can be done towards this is that a Fortune 500 company improved their decision-making communication or, decision-making alignment towards their employees. And they found that there was 30% increase in, alignment from top down to bottom up, wherein, these kind of time to time, you see communication being sent to you, for example, like from people office or HR or anybody. If there is ambiguity in what they're communicating, then, there is no understanding towards what the decision has been made or what is the impact on you. So understanding and putting that in a proper structured framework of communication helps you improve this particular communication. The next thing is you as a leader, when you properly communicate, it enhances your presence and influence. Because what happens when you communicate properly, it is considered that you are 3.5 times higher performing professional compared to those who don't. So communication is very key. And a prime example for this is Satya Nadella, who transformed Microsoft by putting clear transformative leadership communication styles, which is based on clarity, empathy, and purpose. With these 3 things in place, he actually transformed how the executives in Microsoft are envisioned, not just within Microsoft, but also outside Microsoft. And finally, why does communication play a key role when it comes to executives is that it is basically bridging. They always look in from a business executive or strategy or vision perspective. So the closer you are to your execution and their strategy, the better it is for you. It was found that 91% of employees and executives state that a lot of frustration stems out because there is no alignment between the organizational execution strategy and the team that is working under those line of businesses or divisions. So what did Amazon do? Jeff Bezos actually clearly introduced that executive communication should be based on some solid principles like customer excellence or operational, driving force, so that you as leaders can be looked into from more powerful stance than just being a leader in the organization. Now, what does this all sum down to? It all sums down to that the art of communication is your language of leadership. Remember, we all say that we are all born leaders, but how we communicate is how someone perceives us as a leader. If you always think that the communication is just conveying information, then that's not how you have to start thinking from tomorrow onwards. It's all about that communication is how you're leading, how you're influencing, and how you are positioning yourself as that professional who is growing in the leadership space. Now that you know why executive communication is very important, let's look at the common pitfalls that really, top the list in this particular category. The first and foremost is lack of clarity and conciseness. 86% of employees state that, whenever there is a executive communication or you are communicating to the executives, there is very clear lack of, what is being communicated. The details are being missed when the communication is being done. And a lot of people start to think, what was this communication all about? So clarity and conciseness is very important. And we'll be talking about the solution and frameworks for each of them as we move forward. Next one is not aligning with business priorities. As I showed in the previous slide, aligning to that particular vision, where that business priority or strategy is and what the objective or key results is all about. If the alignment is not there, then the organization is wasting its time towards really understanding which direction is the organization moving towards. And you as the employee or someone as an executive will not be aligned towards what is being communicated. So for example, if in your email or communication or in a meeting you are in, if you're not talking in that business priority language, then you have missed the plot altogether in this style of communication. The foremost, when it comes to people who like a lot of data, they put in a lot of effort and energy into showcasing their data skills and presenting a lot of numbers when it comes to this style of communication. It was found that 63% of people waste their time in providing more data than as required. So, they overload their communication with a lot of data and instead of providing the key insights. So we'll start to look into this as we move to the next slides for that. Now, the other aspect that has been promoted is that 86% communicate to executives, but then they realize they haven't actually communicated the actual risks or solutions that are required. This reminds me actually of a senior vice president I had in my organization who had a quote on her glass door which said that, come to me if you have a problem, but come to me more if you have a solution to the problem. So what does that mean? Executives love to talk to you, but executives love to talk to you more with people who have solutions, because they can entertain any number of people who have problems, but they can entertain more quality people who have solution to those problems and have identified the risks to solve those problems. So think about in what ways can you solve those. You don't have to solve 100% of the problem, but even if you get to 80% or 90% of the problem and present to them in this particular format, then you have actually driven to the goal that you are supposed to. And the last and foremost one, last one is that a lot of people don't really think about, but it is very important when it comes to communication, is how well do you understand your leader? Like, do you understand what sort of a leader they are, what sort of a communication style they like? And, do you really observe them, monitor them to mimic them as you look into? So we'll be looking into them down the line. But it all comes down to this particular video. I know it's a little bit funny, but I wanted to depict something here. Imagine you're feeding your executive with the food. Look at the way the baby looks all around, because the executive's focus is that way, is that they are constantly in a shift of information that is coming to them. And unless you're really to the point, you'll be missing them, what you're really presenting to them. So I'll play the video again and take a look at the baby, how the baby moves around very significantly as the feeding goes. So you're presenting the communication, but the executive has very minimal focus like a baby. So I want this video to be helpful to you, is that whenever you talk to an executive or present to an executive, see how you can grab the attention of the executive immediately, because their focus is like a baby, very minimal. So coming to the solution and frameworks, I haven't looked at the chat, but let me open it here on the side, if in case anybody has anything. All right. When it comes to the solution and the frameworks, the first one is the lack of clarity and concise. We spoke about that 86% complained about this particular aspect, wherein they missed what was being communicated. Now, in this particular regard, if you really want to understand how to really present the information in a more clear and concise way, then a structured framework can help you to put that information into perspective. Now think about, after this presentation, go back to one of your executive emails or communication or meeting that you have done. Look at the way you communicated to them. Was it clear and concise? Was it to the point you really wanted to refine and present it to them, so that they can just go through it in within 5 to 10 seconds or 15 seconds rather than going through a huge news article. So how do we do this? So the first technique towards doing this is known as bluff. Bluff is also known as bottom line upfront. Now, what do you do with this bottom line upfront is, let's just say you're looking at a news article of yesterday's. You can use this technique to it. Go through the whole article and just take what is that one key takeaway from that article. Put that key takeaway on the top of the email or communication you're sending to. In my experience, how I've used this particular technique is that I split the email into two parts. First, I put a heading known as high level and put that one line to tell them, here is what I'm communicating from this email. And there is an option called insert in Outlook, insert a word horizontal line. And then I bought below that horizontal line, I say detailed message, wherein I provide the supporting details. By doing so, what happens is that the executives or your team can clearly look into to say, okay, this is what is being communicated. If they want to read further, they can go into the detailed information. I'll show you an example in the next slide to help you understand more. The next framework to help in this particular aspect is called the rule of three. Imagine you want to communicate to your immediate direct executives, not the the senior vice presidents or EVPs or anybody. Help them with more information by putting them in 3 key points, like what is your bullet point 1, 2, 3. Now, why does this framework help you is because in the first one, you are clearly saying, this is the only thing I'm communicating, but the executive can take the message and move forward. But let's just say if you want people to remember what you're communicating, if you want them to act upon what you really are trying to convey, put them in this 3 bullet point format so that they can actually take that information, understand it, and then take further action accordingly. So this particular framework helps you in helping them memorize what you're really trying to communicate and take action accordingly. And the final one in this particular segment is called SABAR, or situation background assessment and recommendation. Let's just say your executive has asked you to present a report towards a production issue or any other issue that you have gone through. You may not be able to say everything in 1 line or 3 points, but you can more present it in a issue solution type of format. You don't need to actually bullet it as situation background or anything as such, but take note into this format and just put those bullet points in those four lines. Then what happens is they can clearly understand, okay, this is what has happened. I may or may not know the background. This email has helped me. This is the assessment done by the team, and here is what they are recommending to. So if you have one issue, then this particular format clearly helps you drive the point towards it. So I hope the lack of clarity and conciseness, 3 frameworks help you so that you can look into it as you move forward in your next experience. Here is an example of bluff, how to present the bluff. As you can see on the top, this is the high level, one-liner that I was talking about. Just put it in a straight, and then you can split it or bold it to say that this is your key takeaway. And then in the supporting information, you can see that how detailed that particular information was. All right. When it comes to not aligning with business priorities, as I stated earlier, that 70% of people mentioned about the executive communication not being aligned to business priorities. Now, what could be one of the reasons here? One of the reasons is because either, when they are communicating, they're not really aligned to the executive goals or business impact, or when you are communicating to them, you're not talking their language. So one of the reasons how to come close and, avoid this kind of pitfall is asking for a document called OKR document, which is also known as Objective Key Results document. Now, every organization has this particular document created every quarterly as well as annually. Now, you must be wondering what this OKR document is. OKR document is prepared by a line of business people wherein they align their goals towards the corporate strategy or the goals set by the CEO. So once the CEO sets their goal, the division takes those goals, sets their goals, then the line of business sets their goal. So if you are keen towards improving your business strategy and business impact towards the executives you are working towards, try talking to your business folks and say, hey, can I have a look at the OKR document? Can I understand what really the organization in my space is driving towards? Once you understand that, then you can start to use the below frameworks. First and foremost is value proposition framework. Now, once you understand the business strategy and the language that is being used in that business strategy document, start using that language in your communication, whether it's a Teams meeting or whether it's an Outlook email that you're sending across. Remember, the language you use or the art of communication is how you are envisioned as a leader. So the closer you are to the language the executives are talking, the better you are envisioned that you are a high-performing leader. So this value proposition framework helps you come closer to making sure you understand their language and you're talking in their language. Next one is called the OKRs, or objective key results. As I said about the OKR document, tie your data or any language that you're talking more towards the objectives. Let's just say a particular example or an objective for an organization in a particular, let's just say, marketing space is improving the marketing strategy or marketing growth by 30%. There will be key results that the organization is working towards. Talk in that particular 30% improvement language. What steps you have taken? What is the issues you are facing? What is the goal that you are working towards with your team towards that 30% improvement in marketing, so that you are actually showcasing that all your work that you're doing towards is towards the alignment of the organization and towards the success of the organization. And finally, the last one is, let's just say if you want to send a more detailed email, but it is very critical, but at a lower level, not at the very SVPs or EVPs, more towards your director or a senior manager, then you can use this one, which is called AIDA, which means you're trying to get their attention. You're trying to put your interest, what exactly you have done, and then what is the next steps towards your team, and then what action you'll be taking. If you are really putting this particular format in one-liner, then you can definitely send it to the executive, because as I said, the focus of executives is like a baby. So you need to get their attention very immediately. Now, to put all this frameworks into one particular image, this particular image will help you understand very clearly. Understand your company's vision, understand what their business strategy very clearly is, how it's broken down into each line of businesses, what is their objective, whether it's quarterly or annually, how is your team aligned to that objective, and what are the key results they are working towards, and how does your initiative plug into that particular key result, so that you are plugging yourself into this whole image accordingly to contribute to the success of the organization. Now, the third one, and I believe this is the most favorite for people, who talk in data language, is overloading with data instead of insights. Now, what happens is we all get excited when we see data. There are a lot of Excel experts, Power BI experts, Tableau and whatnot, all sorts of tools out there. Now, once we start to work with data, we get excited because we see a lot of insights from it. But what happens is, in the end, we fail to communicate those insights, then dump the data into the communication that we are looking into. Too many numbers in a communication loses the plot altogether, because they're not able to connect what exactly you're trying to present. So stick to actionable insights, which means like using one of those previous slides frameworks, either three key points or your bluff. Keep it at a very high level, one particular statement with the actual actionable insight, so that you clearly articulating that this is what exactly I'm trying to say. Don't worry about the rest of the data. If you want data, then here is the attachment for you to look into and clearly articulate just simple, straightforward communication. Now, what is the frameworks associated with this one is called the pyramid or the Minto method. As I explained that, put the conclusion at the top with the data or the insight you have come across, and then put the supporting arguments at the bottom, so that you don't really dilute your communication when you're sending this to the executive. And as I said, keep it very simple and strategic, so that you can follow this particular format known as KISS, which is all about, whenever someone is talking to you, they're presenting so much data, they're talking continuously to you. And at one point you would say, okay, what exactly is this all about? Can we come to the point? I'm sure you all use this particular jargon, right? Can we come to the point? This particular framework is all about that. Is coming to the point directly, rather than diluting the whole communication with unnecessary details, so that you are looked upon as someone who can be, pulled upon when there is a critical situation, when there is an important aspect or initiative that can be worked upon, because they can count on you that you are very straightforward, very simple, and very clear in your communication when it comes to detail-oriented or data-oriented aspects. And the last one is, if you still wanna convey your data without losing it for all the great work you have done, convert the data into visuals. Don't just kind of popular tables or anything as such. Simple data, very appealing data, so that you can tell your story through data. In this way, what happens is they can deep down one level further, and then they can use those visuals for their discussions with other stakeholders in the organization accordingly. Okay. Here is a pictorial representation of that particular data-oriented issues that you might have faced. Is understand that what exactly is the main insight that you want to share. Put that at the top, and using the insights that you have come across, what are the supporting insights? The 3 simple key points format that we spoke at the first pitfall frameworks, put them in there, and then any data that you want to share or you want to attach, you can say insight 1, here is the evidence, insight 2, here is the evidence, and so forth. Now, fourth one that we can talk about is known as the failing to address risks and solutions. Now, if you are in project management, or let's just say management in general, you will be talking about risks and how do we mitigate these risks and so forth. So the first and foremost to understand is, do people even envision any forthcoming risks proactively? And 70% of people stated that because of not able to foresee these risks in future, a lot of communication issues come across because you missed the plot because you didn't really understand what are the downstream impacts of your communication or the action your team has taken. So how do we solve this? The one way to solve this is to proactively identify risks and propose solutions. Remember, I said about my SVP who had that quote on the Glassdoor is, leaders like those people who really provide solutions then rather than just coming with problems, because executives already have a lot of problems, and if they want to add one more, they can add as many as they want, right? So be that leader who can propose solutions to the problems out there. Of course, if you cannot really come across anything by talking to your stakeholders or anybody, they are always there to help based on their bandwidth and focus and everything else. But try to come up with as many solutions as possible so that you can be that problem solver than problem creator. How do you do that? Is first and foremost, any initiative or any area that you're working on, try to come up with a particular document known as RACI. RACI is known as responsible, accountable, consult, and inform. These are the 4 lines of communication wherein you have different stakeholders, you can map them accordingly. This particular document also helps you understand who is that particular person that you need to reach out, or executive that you need to reach out, who has the decision-making authority, who just needs communication to understand what's going on in your initiative or line of business, or who needs to just kept informed, like, CC'd in the emails so that you can keep them informed as things move forward. Remember, down the line, if some major issue happens, one of the common lines you always hear is, I was never informed. So always good to have this RACI document in place so that you clearly understand who are all the stakeholders who are positively and negatively impacting the work you do, so that they are all kept in communication as required. Now, once you know who you need to reach out, it's all about what you need to communicate, right? So understanding the risks you foresee and what impact that creates by these risks is also very important, because then you can talk to your direct manager and then say, hey, here is what I see, here is what we think about, what are the strategies that we can come across to really propose it to the executives. Once you understand these strategies, then it's all about details and very high level that you can communicate and the steps you are taking towards. So once you have RACI matrix, talk about risk impact matrix, which talks about what steps you're taking towards these particular risks. And finally, once you know these risks, deep further down into why did it happen? Like, it's called the 5 why analysis. Wondering what this 5 why analysis is? Here is a picture for you. Understand a problem, but ask yourself these 5 whys. And again, you can use this in any situation. Is, let's just say, for example, you ran through a red light and you ended up with a ticket, but you never thought that you ran through a red light. When you see the ticket, you realize what exactly happened. Ask yourself these 5 whys. Why did that happen? Then ultimately you'll understand the root cause, and it can be a reason also for operational improvement or your own style of communication improvement, because it's all the goal of all these solutions and frameworks is all for us to improve. So 5 why analysis helps you deep down further with your team to really see where are the gaps in your execution or the organizational execution. So then you as a leader can propose, hey, these are the things that we can improve, and here are the strategies that we'll be using towards. So coming back to this particular slide, in order to envision or proactively look into risks and solutions, 5Y analysis helps you understand those issues before you're presenting it to executives. Because remember, executives will all about be thinking is, okay, now that you have proposed this risk, what are you going to do about it? And 5 analysis helps you deep dive down further in 5 levels down, so that you can clearly say, this is why it happened, this is the root cause, and here are all the steps that we'll be taking, because this is where we found the operational inefficiency. And finally, not adapting to their communication style. This, I believe, is more towards understanding people and understanding how they operate. One of the ways they say is that if you can mimic me, then you already know how I work. So when you know how your leader works, or how a stakeholder that you're working with kind of aligns, works towards, whether they are more visual person, they are more auditory person, or more interactive person, what sort of style do they hold? Once you know that, then you can clearly align your communication accordingly. So as I was saying, tailor your communication based on your executive preferences and personality types. Now, one of the ways to understand the personality types is knowing their DISC, information. Or let's just say you really have to communicate to a senior vice president. Normally, a EVP or an SVP usually has a chief of staff or an executive assistant. You can ask them, hey, what is the style of leadership this particular professional has? And any open professional in your organization usually shares to them, whether it's a DISC assessment or a Clifton Strengths, or also called as Gallup Strength, any Myers-Briggs assessment or anything, these sort of things. If you come to understand about the leader whom you will be working for a while, or let's just say you will be working with that leader in 2025, you clearly can understand. A clear example of this particular model, or let's just say this particular scenario, is I was working with a senior director last year towards a major initiative. We were working for a major bank in Canada. I was more towards relational style of a personality, and then my manager was not really relational personality type. He was more into deep dive down, strategic, straight to the communication, don't trouble me sort of a person. Initially, I had challenges to align my communication towards that particular leader, but then after going through the Clifton Strengths or Gallup Strengths of that particular professional, I realized this particular person's strength lies differently than mine. So it's all about aligning to their style of work, style of leadership, and then communicating accordingly, so that they see you as a favoring partner towards the work they are doing. Next one is about understanding, executive persona mapping. This one is all about, going back to those common pitfalls and understanding them. What does your executive really look towards? Are they looking for clear, concise kind of a, communication? Are they looking more towards, risk-related information? Are they looking data-driven information? What sort of a style of communication are they looking into? So based on that, you can either add more data or more information or any other spin towards business strategy, so that you are more closer to what they are looking for. And finally, if everything that and then you still want to look towards what they want, get on a meeting with them or talk to them and understand what sort of a style of communication are they talking towards, what sort of words are they using, what sort of language they are using, so that you can actually grow in that space and start to mimic them, so that they see you as a partner towards the work they're doing, and then they can consider you as an ally, so that you are more closer towards the work they are doing. All right. So here is the picture of DISC. If in case people here are listening it for the first time, it's a 4 pie kind of a assessment that people are scored across. You're given a questionnaire sort of a perspective. You rate based on what word actually aligns to you or correlates to you, and a score generated. For me, it is more high D and I. I know I have to look into how to communicate with C and S, wherein leaders can be more, as you see here, leaders can be more result oriented, or they are more optimistic, or they are more tactful, or they are more analytical in space. So leadership can be of different styles. Once you understand the DISC assessment, it will help you very much. Now, as you heard about the common pitfalls and the solutions and frameworks, quickly to summarize what exactly the do's and don'ts of executive communication are. Be clear, keep it very simple. and don't overload with details and long emails. Once upon a time, when I was a strategic planning manager, I was clearly told I send very good value information, but very long emails. That helped me understand to keep it very short, very clear and concise, so that people can chew the information very easily rather than have to scroll through the whole email, for information that needs to be looked into. Next is we spoke about aligning with business priorities. The closer you are to the goal, the better it is for you to achieve the objective that you're looking for, you're trying to communicate. Don't get into too many details, the operational details of I did XYZ, I have to do 1, 2, 3. Just focus on what exactly needs to be done and how you're achieving it. Then you are very simple and clear in what you're trying to achieve. And as we spoke, present data as insights, don't dump raw data into it. Use data as your power rather than, making you look as someone who is over communicating with all the numbers that confuse them, further to understand what the message is all about. Anticipate risks and provide solutions. Be that solution or problem solver than problem creator. Look into that kind of mindset, then you are more closer towards, improving your solutioning with your executives. And finally, if you can understand the person, then you can even drive your information towards them much easier, because people favor listening to those who they see as their ally than people who see as, someone who is over communicating, or, they have completely missed the plot of how to communicate to them. So one size fits all approach does not work for all the executives. It's all about understanding the executive and communicating to them accordingly. Now that you understood the whole pitfalls, solution frameworks, and do's and don'ts, what I would like you to do is think about your previous executive communication that you have done. And now that you have heard the presentation, how ready are you using this particular questionnaire that you can quickly say, in a paper in front of you or a Word doc in front of you, so that you can say that I'm 3 here or 4 here or 5 here, whatever it is, a quick assessment for you to help you understand after this presentation to look forward to. So let's take a few minutes here for you to quickly work on this, and then I'll present the grid towards what steps you need to take based on the score you have. Okay. I'm looking towards the chat here if in case anybody has any. So just take a minute and, think about each line. The last time you communicated to your executives, how did you present your, ideas, your points, your business goals? How confidently did you engage to the senior leaders? Did you use any frameworks? If you did, then, rate yourself 5, because you are already, using the framework, but did you communicate to them confidently? Put in the chat once you're done with the assessment so that I know I can move forward accordingly. Going in here, which is really good. Thank you for participating in this readiness quiz. So I'm sure you all got a score. Did you total your score? If in case you didn't total your score, let's just say you rated 3 on the first one, 4 on the second one. So you must be coming up with a number close to 15, 20 somewhere. Or anything less is fine too. We are all in a learning, growing journey. So if in case you have come up with that particular number, here is the grid for you. If you are 20 plus, then you are on your path to, executive communication mastery. It's all about, growing your confidence, practicing it continuously so that you can be confident towards communicating to the executives. If you're in between 15 and 19, you're in a good space, but practice more structured communication. Use those frameworks to your, improvement and help yourself more structured communication. Let's just say you're below 15, a good way to improve yourself is have someone peer review your communication, someone whom you envision as an expert in executive communication. Ask them to look to your, communication and say, hey, is there any feedback that you can help me with? Is there any ways I can concise this particular message further down the line. Maybe there are words that, that are being overused or repetitive or anything as such. And then use one of those frameworks that we spoke about in the last 5 common pitfalls. Then it is all about art of improving your communication to be envisioned as a great leader that you will become. All right. So now that you understood what are the common pitfalls, why executive communication is important, all the solution and frameworks, do's and don'ts, and you have a score now. So you clearly know where you stand. So you've understood the scenario, what exactly where you stand and what action you need to take. Now, next time when you need to communicate to your executives, understand what sort of communication you need to do to them. Identify that particular communication that you need to do. Take one key takeaway from this presentation, implement in that executive interactions or communication that you need to do, and understand which framework you need to apply. Once you know which framework you need to apply, your half of the work is done. It's all about imbibing that information into that framework and sending them across to your executives so that you are successful in what you really wanted to achieve. Finally, the takeaways that you see here is that clarity is the king. Be clear and concise in what you want to communicate. Put them in the framework because frameworks improve easier. And as I said at the start of the presentation, once you put your communication in a particular framework, a Fortune 500 company saw 30% jump in the decision making and data-driven messaging. So if you really are looking to communicate simple, short in a much better way, use one of those frameworks to help you communicate easier so that you don't really worry about what sort of information should I put or how do I really put this information towards, so that you spend a lot of time in looking towards getting started also. And finally, understand what sort of leader that particular person is. And the more you know about a person, the better it is for you. And as I said, once you know your score now, it's all about continuous improvement. Remember, this is February 21st, 2025. You are a different person on February 21st, 2026. We have 1 year ahead and further down the line. It's all about continuous improvement. This is not the end of the journey for you. It's a start of the journey for you. So use the information to help you be successful in your journey. And then finally, it's all about improving your confidence, growing as a leader, communicating more effectively, and generating the value you are envisioned as a leader. The whole presentation comes down to these 2 lines. As I said, the art of communication is how you are envisioned as a leader. Great leaders don't just see communication as passing on the information. They look towards impressing people and also influence through their communication so that you are envisioned as a great leader. In the end, clarity and confidence and how aligned you are towards the organization that is moving towards, turns the conversations into the impact that you're looking for. We don't want your communication just to be a message that is sent from one person to the other. It is something that is looked into as a purpose-driven leadership that you are envisioned as a person. All right. So this is not the end of the presentation, so don't leave. We have one more activity to do. But I wanted to take a few minutes here to see if you have any questions or if you have any feedback. That's the QR code for the session. Feel free to scan it, send a feedback to me. I'm always on the learning and growing journey. Those are my 2 top 5 Clifton strengths. My top 5 Clifton strengths are positivity, includer, achiever, learner, and woo. So, I'm always on the continuous learning path. Please help me with your feedback and I'll be incorporating them in my next presentation. So at this point, any questions you want to unmute? Any questions that way you want to ask? We are here a short and sweet group, 25 people. I hope you had your coffee. All right. Any questions, anybody?
I had a question, Kamal.
Yes.
Thank you for your presentation. I found that there was a lot of tangible tools, which I really appreciated. My question is, a lot of the scenarios that we talked about today were when you have to present sort of like a solution. So you've already evaluated alternatives and that's how you're kind of communicating up. If you're in the scenario where you're reporting to, you're a direct report to an executive, so not everything you talk to them about is necessarily like a solution-based topic. It might be like updates on things that are just ongoing. What would you suggest for effective communication in that scenario?
Absolutely. And I've been a direct reportee to a senior vice president. So I definitely understand how it is talking to them. And my manager used to barely give me 1 hour per month. So if you are in that situation, how you want to present the information is, first and foremost, when time is of value, understand the person right away. You know, what sort of style of leadership that person holds. The more you understand the person, you are actually narrowing down the, we say, wastage, you know, in the information that we are presenting. So once you understand that person, whether the person is results oriented person or whether the person wants more details, you know, some leaders, when they meet with you one-on-one, they are of different type. Some want more information, some want to the point, some are data driven. So understand the person first, you know, ask them, hey, what sort of communication do you like? What sort of information do you like? Let's just say you are going through the flow, but all of a sudden you have one-on-one with them and they say, you know, I have very less time. What can we discuss about? Then switch your type of communication to them and say, here are the 3 key points. One of the frameworks we spoke about, 3 key points. Here are the 3 key points I wanted to talk to you. And, you know, here, you know, these are the things. And once you're done with it, tell them, I don't have anything else. The other way to also improve is, let's just say, for example, if you have a habit of taking note taking, you know, put your points on this note card, very clear 3 points. Use your note card and talk to them when you are in the meeting with them. Then what happens is they know that you have come prepared and you value their time. So that way it helps you, you know, communicate accordingly.
Thank you.
Hope that was helpful. Yep. All right. Next question, anybody? I don't have access when I try to QR code. We will try to, you know, send you the link, if Joy, or let me put that link here for the chat. Just a second, quickly. Meanwhile, anybody else, any questions? We can move on to the next one. All right. So for all those brave 25 people who woke up early for me, I really appreciate it. So it's my goal is all about improvement. As you saw in my top 5 strengths, it's all about improvement too. So to value your time, here is my, you know, giveaway. Is I use a lot of wheel of assessments. Let's just say it's wheel of life, wheel of leadership, wheel of career, or wheel of current job. So this is an assessment for you, and it's a fun assessment. We have about 12 minutes left in the presentation here. Draw a circle in front of you, you know, draw a circle in front of you, and, you know, how many pies are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pies, right? We have 8 pies here. So, you know, split that circle into 8 pies. And again, you know, be easy, participate in it. Your participation is your value so that you can start to think about what to do next. Okay. So if you have drawn a circle and split it into 8, just give me a thumbs up in the chat. I will be able to move forward. Meanwhile, as you draw this particular circle, let me help our friends here to get the feedback form quickly. That will help me give some time too. And thank you for the feedback. Actually, I will start to incorporate the link also in the chat as I speak next time so that it helps us. Oops, I think I should, that edit part can be removed. All right. For those who cannot access the QR code, here is the link for you to provide the feedback. All right, I see a few thumbs up here. So art of improving is all about understanding the situation you are at. You know, when I coach people, there is a framework called 5-step coaching model, which means first is to understand where you stand, which means the situation. So let's go ahead and on a scale of 1 to 10, put a number in this each of the pies. How satisfied or how happy are you on a scale of 1 to 10 with the income you are making in the current job you are in? You know, whatever, again, the number varies for each of you. It's your position, your situation. So be fair to yourself and put that number. And you don't need to share these numbers to me also. Down the line, if you wish to, you know, speak to me further, we can do that. But at this point, don't put anything in the chat. Just put it on the paper or Word doc you have in front of you. Next is, what is the variety of work you do in your organization? Are you always, on the go? Are you, energetic to show up to your work in the morning? Does the variety of work that you do challenge you? Is this an area that you need to start to think about? It all depends on the number you put there. Next is growth. Is that, are you on your growth curve? Do you envision yourself what you want to achieve in 2025? We are already halfway through the Q1 2025, which means 1/8 of the year is already done, right? So, are you in that growth spectrum steps that you're taking? What number do you put here on a scale of 1 to 10? Next is colleagues. How are your colleagues? How do you rate? Let's just say, for example, we are all colleagues in an organization, right? How do you rate your interactions with your colleagues? Remember, personal branding and relationship building is very important for your career success. So how are you speaking? What are the words you're using when you're talking to your colleagues? How do they envision you? The fifth pie is the workload. And, is your manager dumping too much work on you? Do you have enough work that you can manage, or you're too light, like a guy who just walks in with a cup of coffee and leaves with a cup of coffee, right? Are you that kind of a person? So where do you stand? How is your workload? Or are you someone who is drowned with a lot of work? We don't know, right? So how happy are you with your workload? The sixth one here is autonomy. Autonomy is all about decision making. Are you being micromanaged? Are you being given free hand to make decisions? Where do you stand on a scale of 1 to 10? The seventh one is opportunities. And I was coaching one of the clients, and they asked me, hey, I'm a project manager, but I want to become a program manager. What sort of opportunities do I need to look into? So rate yourself what you are envisioning your growth is, and what opportunities that you are currently doing. Are you in that spectrum that your opportunities are? A tip for those who want to grow and they are not in the role that they are looking for, look out for the volunteer opportunities in your organization. Remember, it's all about growing your relationship with the people that you don't directly work, but also can improve your experience in an area you are not directly aligned to. And finally, what is the environment that you're working with? Is it, I always give an analogy of an aquarium. When I was a kid, we used to have an aquarium, and the fishes were very healthy when we bought first. We used to feed them, fish beads. They're called small, ball kind of structures. I'm sure everybody who has aquarium with them can understand. When we started to feed them, they were all healthy and everything was fine. But one day, curiosity, kind of kicked in for us. We saw a fish vendor actually feeding them, the worms to them. I asked the guy, actually, why do you feed worms? He said, they become nice, healthy, stronger, faster, whatever example verbs he can use. So we were all curious because we were kids at that time. And, we bought those worms. But then what happened was, the aquarium got muddy, it got dirty with a lot of extra waste that was being released by the fishes. The fishes started to eat each other because they became more aggressive, they became more hungry with the amount of food that we added more than required for them. So ask yourself, what sort of aquarium are you working in? Is it a fish bead aquarium, or are you working in that worm-based aquarium? How are the people in your environment or the organization that you're working for? So now that you know that you have a scale of 1 to 10, and if you're in a good space, everything is fine, you are wonderful, then you are great in how you are progressing. But let's just say you need help and you want to talk to someone, then I'm offering to all you people out here 30-minute free session. You can come up with this assessment that you have done today, and you can email me, in the email address here that you see. And I'll be more than happy to speak to you and help further, coach you with that free 30-minute session, so that you gain not just value out of how to communicate to the executives, but also focus on how you can be successful in 2025. All right. I hope you found this presentation to be valuable. I appreciate PMI Canada Technology Triangle to provide me the opportunity on this wonderful Friday, and also Community Tech, who partner with PMI CTT for their great work. All right, Alex, back to you.
Thank you so much, Kamal. This was very insightful, lots of takeaways, and things that we can actually apply to our daily jobs. I'm sure as project managers, communication is important. It's a key skill that we, put into practice every day. So this is absolutely value add, I feel, to everyone here. So appreciate it. Thank you so much, Kamal. Yeah, so we will be following up as usual with a survey and a PDU code so that you can apply your PDU towards your certifications if you're PMI or IIBA. So yeah, we appreciate it very much. And Kamal, we look forward to speaking to you in a future opportunity. I know that now that we're connected, we'll probably run into each other uh, at some point, but we'll keep in touch for sure. And do reach out to Kamal if you have any questions or if you want to follow up with him. That would be amazing. And thank you, Danielle and Carly, for putting this together again and bringing us together here today. And stay tuned for our next P2P next month. We'll be sending out details and as usual, posting everything on our website at PMI and on the Communitech meetup website as well. So stay tuned for our next topic. So thank you very much, everyone, for coming today. Thank you again, Kamal. Hope you have an awesome day.
Thank you once again. Good day.
Thanks.